This episode of Head Game was recorded on Gadigal land.
It's December 5, 2024. Most visitors to Sydney's iconic Bondi beach today don't realise they're about to watch history in the making. 28-year-old Jack Pitcher is on the home stretch of an epic cross-country run. He started the trek 2 months earlier in Perth with his mate Josh. As his feet hit the sandy shore of Bondi, he claims the record for the fastest Brit to run more than 4,000 kilometres across Australia. Not just beating the previous record, but smashing it by 16 days. Far from being a professional athlete, Jack's motive for the journey was about his mental health. I'm at Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, Jack Pitcher on tackling the harsh Aussie outback as a Brit and why it was so important to him. Jack, it's great to have you on. I can remember you arriving on Bondi Beach in December 2024. And what a feat, especially being a Brit in Aussie. You know, I know why you picked Australia, because it's a huge country and there's huge backing here as well. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the run, take me back to your childhood and what it was like growing up and where you grew up.
Yeah, so I've grown up my whole life in an area called Bracknell, which is just near Ascot, so about an hour just sort of south of London. And my upbringing was very normal. I came from a very normal family, a very normal area. My mum was a nurse and my dad was a bricklayer and was also in the TAs as well. So he served his country when he could. So I've come from just a very, very normal background. Growing up, I was always competitive. I played football at a high level. I always kept myself fit. But then obviously growing up, I was just very, very competitive. And I think, as I got older, my dad passed away when I was 12. So from the age of 12, I sort of became the man of the house. So it really changed my mindset from a young age. I feel I can push through a lot that others couldn't at my age. And luckily, it's given me this mental strength that I have today. And I've just carried it all the way through almost 17 years now and just watching that mindset develop. Wow.
So you say that you lost your father at 12 years old. I lost my father when I was 5 years old. And, I sort of hate it because I can barely remember him. And the dynamics of the whole household changed. Like you just said, you had to step into a role. Just take me back to that day. How were you told and how did that affect you moving forward?
Yeah, I remember it clear as day, mate. I just came back from school. I must have started secondary school. I must have been there about a week, literally nothing. And just got a knock at the door. And then I remember my mum answered it and there was a police officer there. And I think my mum sort of knew something wasn't right. So she just said, look, I'll be 2 minutes to me and my sister. And she closed the door. My sister was older than me. She was 15 at the time. So my mum closed the living room door. And then I just heard mumbles in the kitchen, and was sort of working out what's going on. And she said, thanks to the officer. And she opened the door. She was like, kids, I'm really, really sorry, but your dad's been found dead, in his apartment. And it was weird. It was weird because I feel like at 12 years old, you don't really have that emotional maturity. So I didn't really see what was coming in the future.
Well, at that age, you're sort of protected from that, aren't you, by your parents? That's a parent's job. Being a parent myself, I know that emotional sort of side to things. You sort of, you protect at all costs. You sort of, shelter your children, and you subconsciously do it. So so they can learn little by little as things progress. But I suppose, wow, yeah, you talk about that emotional maturity. You had zero. None. You had no emotional maturity at that age.
Yeah, none. I had none at all, and I sort of digested it and just sort of tried. It was I didn't really feel anything. It sounds stupid, but I instantly felt I was the man of the house, and what I'd done, I remember this clear as day. Probably about half an hour after I'd just been told, I started just getting my school uniform ready for the next day. I thought, right, I'm not using this as an excuse to fail at life or to become someone I don't want to be. I want to use this for the right reasons. And that's what I'd done. I put my school uniform on. And you know what? The day of my dad's funeral, I still went to school. I just had a half day. I didn't even have the full day off. I went in there. I left about 12 o'clock. and I went to my dad's funeral.
Wow. And how did the dynamics change, not only within the household, but within your mindset, talking about head game? Was it a drastic change, or did you try and keep it as normalized, situation, due to the situation, as normalized as possible?
Yeah, I think it changed my mindset further down the line. I was still a young kid. I was still trying to go to school. I was having fun with my friends. I was still sort of learning as a young adult. And as I got to 16, 17, and I started to mature, and obviously I was going through puberty and stuff, I realized that, if I can get through basically manhood without the person that I should be, learning off and being guided into, if I can go through that on my own, really having my own thoughts, my own problems, as a man in a tough world, if I can get on with that on myself, that I can really overcome most things. And that's when I started to realize that I just felt there was just something slightly different about me than other people. I know everyone's got their different problems, but I just felt within me there was just a level of strength that put me just above everyone else. It sounds a bit ignorant because you don't understand what other people have gone through, but that's just what I felt, and I just went with it as a young kid. And it's got me some places. It's worked out for the best for me. So in a way, I was sort of right, but yeah, it did change the dynamic, because obviously as you grow up, I was going through problems that we all would as young men, and I felt that I didn't have any connection or any common ground in the house because I was living with two women. There was no one that could really understand me. So a lot of the time, any problems I had, I just kept it in and dealt with it as best I could. So it's made me very, very resilient.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The psychological resilience that you've built subconsciously, and I say subconsciously because you don't realize you're building it, right, until you get put through, or you put yourself through something. And then you look back and at the negative situations, but extract the positives from them, which you've done, that you realize, you've built physical resilience, psychological resilience. And you mentioned the word resilience, talk about giving yourself, I would say, the upper hand, or a slight psychological advantage of having that psychological resilience built into you subconsciously from a young age.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why growing up, I just felt slightly different, even though, I love my mates and I love everyone around me. I just felt like I've been through so much already at such a young age. And, all my mates have, luckily they've still got their parents around, but I just felt there was just something different about me. I just had a bit more strength, a bit more determination about my life, everything I wanted to do was for him. And my dad was such a strong character. Some of the stories I've heard from my dad's friends about who he was, I just felt I wanted to carry on his legacy as best I could. And I like to think I've sort of done that.
Yeah, listen, you've done that, but you've got so much more to do. When did it really start to hit home on how far you've come, but also how sort of detrimental and damaging it could have been if you didn't have got yourself into your fitness, into your running, into your sort of extreme sports of pushing yourself? When did you realize that that was the next step for you to really sort of heal, shall we say?
Yeah, I actually got into ultra running probably about 4 or 5 years ago, by a complete accident, actually. So in a way, I think it was a blessing in disguise, because a friend of mine said, look, you're the only crazy guy I know to run for 24 hours. I don't know anyone else that would just do it, and I want you to do it with me. So I got into ultra running that way to help a friend out. And for me, it just felt I was born to do this stuff because I had that mental resilience. And like you said, that psychological advantage over other people. I felt this is perfect for me to use, because for me, this is a walk in the park. Like, running for 24 hours is absolutely nothing on dealing with your emotions for 17 years. This is nothing. I do this every day with my eyes closed, right? I was halfway through my first ultra running for 24 hours and I was already thinking of what I could do next. And it just became something like, you know what, I just feel this is right for me. And then, yeah, like I said, I've done multiple ultras after that. I ran 103 miles. which is about 160k. I ran across 2 days with about 5 hours sleep. So I don't believe anyone's born to do anything, but I think you can become so good at something that people start to think you are born to do something. And that's what it was like for me. People just messaged me going, mate, you've never run a marathon before and you're running 50 miles, 60 miles, 100, like what's going on? And I said, I don't know. I'm just letting my emotions almost take control of me. I'm keeping myself calm, but I'm just letting my emotions drive my body. And it's hard because people ask me for tips on running, and I find it very difficult to give people tips because a part of me is like, this has all come from a bit of trauma. This is not internal. It's internal. I can't help you run 160k because you haven't had the upbringing I have, and I try and explain that to people and they go, oh, okay. I said, you just got to find your purpose. You got to find your why. That is the best way.
Would you fear for your mental health, or be concerned for your mental health? And do you still fear for your mental health if you didn't do things like this?
Great question. I would be concerned because you look at what's going on in the world now. And I think if it wasn't for this discipline, this structure that I have in my mind, that I can break these big things down and make them just look easy, I think I would struggle in certain areas. But for me, it was the best part about it was I had a very, very tough year leading up to Australia mentally. Things just got a bit too much.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, for sure. So the year leading up to Australia, I was suffering quite badly. A long relationship I had ended overnight. A friend of mine passed away. It all was happening at the wrong time. And I fell into a state of a bit of depression where I thought, I'm not suicidal, but at the same time, I'd be okay with not being around anymore. It was just sort of in between. And I manipulated that feeling and said, if I'm not scared of dying, then I shouldn't be scared of failure. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow, I love that. If I'm not scared of dying, I shouldn't be scared of failure. Yeah. And mate, wow, I just picked up on that because the fear of failure is what stops so many people from realizing what they're truly capable of, realizing where their true potential lies. And I suppose it comes hand in hand with what you just said.
Yeah.
If you're not scared to die, then why should I be scared of failure? Because they're both super daunting.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. I mean, if you ask probably everyone in the world what's your biggest fear, I think the outcome would be death. I think that would be the scariest thing for people. And I think if I'm not scared of that, then why should I be scared of failure? For me, it just didn't make any sense. So I manipulated that feeling and thought, well, let's just go for something big. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to spend every penny I have and save and save and save. And I'm going to do something extraordinary to inspire people that you can be anyone and anything. And you can do the most unbelievable things that sometimes the people you don't imagine anything of can do the things that no one can imagine. And that's what I wanted to tell people. So I was just a roofer from Bracknell, mate. I never ran an official marathon. And here I am 8 months later, saying I ran across Australia. So anything is possible. And I use that manipulation of my depression.
So you admit that you had a form of depression. Did you recognize it at the time, or was it a case, were you in denial? And how did you come about to say, actually, I need to do something now because, my mental state's in decline. I'm feeling depressed. When was that moment? And, was it a big moment, or was it just a consecutive sort of events that happened that led you to that moment?
Yeah, so I definitely recognized it because I had no drive. I had no ambition. I was just existing, really. It was just very sort of grey. It was very sort of average. I wasn't excited about things. I wasn't scared of anything. I just felt everything was grey. Everything was numb. Yeah, numb's perfect. Numb. And I never had any social batteries. I found it hard to be happy for people. Everything was just shit, basically. And I was off my training. I didn't even watch anything. I just felt I was existing. And that's when, like I said, I love listening to podcasts, reading, watching, and I started to develop my own theory of, well, you know what? I wouldn't care if I'm not around anymore. And the more I had that feeling every day, that's when I started to develop this theory of, well, if I'm not scared of dying, I shouldn't be scared of failure. So I put that into practice, and I ran 103 miles using that theory. I signed up for an ultra, and I used that theory, and I was running with people that have done Ironmans, Marathon des Sables, and I was probably a roofer in an old pair of trainers, mate, an old raincoat, and I'd done it.
Take me back to that day. So you wake up, you just whack your trainers on. You've obviously signed up for it, and you've just what were your expectations? What did that day look like, and how did you tip up for it?
Yeah, it was a funny old day. I was a bit nervous, but you know what? It was with me. I'll always fail at things. That's normal in life, but I'll never give up on things.
Yeah,
there's a big difference. Even if I would have come last, or I would have, ran past the time and I was already out, I don't care. I would have crossed that line regardless. So I knew I'd finish, but I didn't know what time. I knew I'd be broken, but it didn't matter. I was just excited to see if my theory of this idea of not being scared of failure would work. If I've got nothing to lose, if I'm not scared of anything, then people going, "How you didn't do it?" It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. But I done it. I somehow came top 100.
Wow. And when you say you come top 100 out of how many?
I think it was 220, 220 people.
Wow. So you came in like the top 50% of, and like you said, there's marathon runners there, there's Ironmen there, and you've just rocked up with probably concrete on your trainers.
Big time, mate. Yeah, my shoes had holes in them, mate. I didn't have the best equipment. It was ignorance was bliss, mate. I thought, you know what, like, let's just give it a go, and there's no pressure on me. Let's just see what happens. And the amount of messages I had and people going, "Mate, I can't believe you're doing this. It's insane." And while I was running and knowing there was people watching me, I just felt completely and utterly unshackled. I just felt this was right. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel I'm destined to do, is to do these crazy runs, to inspire people, to push people, and to make people realize you really can just go after anything you want.
And what felt right about it, Jack? Was it right that you were inspiring, or was there a switch within yourself after that run or during that run?
Yeah, I just, you know what, I never lacked the motivation to finish. For me, it was like, at no point did I go, I just can't do this. For me, it was like, I'm fucking finishing. I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, I perform best under severe amount of pressure, and I genuinely had like good mates of mine say, "Mate, I love you to bits, but I think you've bitten off more than you can chew," which is fair enough. And honestly, it was that was the feeling. I just felt that putting myself under pressure and pain, and to do something that most people think is impossible, and to come out the other side clean, that for me was just I just felt obsessed with that feeling of going into hell, going into the unknown, and just doing it and getting it done and learning from it, and then inspiring it, and then pushing that onto other people. I just felt it was just everything I needed,
And how did it help your mental well-being after that race?
It just made me, my theory was right, and I wanted to use it again as quick as possible, and do something bigger. But also, it just made me realise, I'm in the wrong career. I don't want to be where I'm at anymore. This is the start of something. This is the start of my whole career. And I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker, but I never knew how to get into that career. It was a very niche thing to do. And why on earth should a builder have that dream of becoming a motivational speaker? What's he going to talk about? So for me, it was like, okay, this is the first step of a very long ladder, but I'm climbing the right ladder. That was the most important thing. So for me, like I said, I felt unshackled. I started to see a life that I actually wanted, and I thought, this is my way out of the life I'm living. So that's what changed for me.
How did Australia come about then? Because it's not like you just went from, dipping your toe, I would say, not so much dipping your toe doing 100 miles or 100 miles plus, but it literally went from that, didn't it, to running 4,000 kilometers across. Who put that idea in your head, or did you put it in your own head?
So it was a friend of mine, Josh, who's currently actually at Sandhurst doing his training in the army.
Oh, is he?
Hopefully going to become
Good
an
lad.
officer. Yeah. He's a very, very strong lad, and he wants to get into the paras, and he's doing so well. You know, I'm very, very proud of him. But
Yeah.
we got speaking, and we said, look, I've got a year before I've got to go into the army. Seeing you run that 100 miles is so cool. Let's do something together if you're up for it. So we started discussing down the path of what we could do, and we had this idea of Australia, right? We thought, how are we going to plan for this scale? This is a joke. And we've done so much social networking. We put so much of our own money into this, and this is the problem. This is like, you know, all these running influencers get everything they want, everything paid for. You know, they have all this opportunity, all reality TV stars. You know, and there's just two young lads going, look, we want to do this crazy run. You know, and to find people that would back us, believe us, and help us was very, very hard. So we basically had friends who had local businesses that gave us, you know, a bit of money here and there to help us out. But we funded most of it each. We thought, why not? Let's just do it. Life's too short. And yeah, we got a 4x4, and we got all our equipment, and we got all our visas done. And the plan was to run the whole perimeter of Australia. We wanted to become the first British people to ever run the perimeter of Australia. We were going to start in Darwin, go all down the east coast, all the way up to Adelaide, through to Perth, from Perth to Darwin. We were going to be the first Brits to ever do it. And we planned for that, and then we had a horrific car accident. We lost loads of money, loads of equipment, loads of time.
Where are you when you have this car crash?
So we flew into Melbourne. We picked our vehicle up from Melbourne, and then we drove from Melbourne to Darwin to pick up our videographer who was flying into Darwin. So we were going to have a bit of a road trip, you know, from Melbourne to Darwin, and then we'd crack on basically. About 3 days after we landed, we're driving down Murray Bridge. We get caught up in this horrific accident. We've had to swerve in the road. Our trailer's sort of lost control at the back. We're swerving all over the road, about 80 miles per hour. We flipped about 3 or 4 times down the motorway and landed on the grass. And we all got out the car, and luckily somehow, you know, there was a God looking out for us, because we all got out the car absolutely fine. No cuts, no bruises, no broken bones. And we looked at each other and we thought, right, okay, everyone okay. Our stuff was destroyed. Like everything we spent thousands on is gone. And me and Josh were sat there like, right, can we get some money and borrow a Sprinter? We were still doing Australia. There was not like, I'm coming home. You know, I quit my job. I've spent every money I had on this. I'm not coming home empty-handed. So we looked and you know, we couldn't, with the money we lost, the time we lost to try and get a new vehicle, we looked at our route, and because we lost so much money and time, we worked out we probably would have got down to Adelaide from Darwin running, and then we'd run out of money. So it was either we run from Darwin to Adelaide, and while we're running, we try and get hold of companies and say, look, can you fund us for the rest of the trip? Or we just basically have to shut up shop and plan something else.
There was no stage during that you went, do you know what, let's just call it quits, let's go back, let's reorganize, let's replan. It was that decision made as soon as you got out of the car. You're like, right, let's see what's going on here. Right, this is destroyed, but we're here, so we're going to do something.
100%, mate. It was the adventure in us,
and that attitude never wavered.
Never wavered. You know, like I said, we're Brits, man. We're adventurers. You know, we didn't want to come home. We wanted to carry on, and we all sat down with my team, and we said, look, like it was Josh and I's project. So our team, as much as they had suggestions, at the end of the day, Josh and I said, look, this is our project. We've put a lot of money into this. We've done the maths. We can't do the perimeter. It's just impossible to do. It's too much of a risk. What we're going to do is we've looked, and there's a British record up for grabs, right? We would have done British history by becoming the first Brits, and don't get me wrong, someone would have beaten it eventually, but we would have been the first British people. So now it was like, right, now we're up at a bit of a race now. We want to get this British record from Perth to Sydney. This is what we're going to have to do. So we basically sold everything we had. We scrapped our 4x4 for literally like less than $1,000. It cost us 10 grand to buy. That was messed up. So we lost thousands. And this wasn't through sponsors. This was our own money. So we rented a car. We drove from Darwin to Perth without stopping. We all took turns driving. We didn't stop. Luckily, we had some connections in Perth where we could stay for 4 or 5 days. We got some money in from family. We planned, we got food in. We rented a motor home from Apollo, motor vans. And that was it, mate. We parked up on Cottesloe Beach and we just touched the ocean at Cottesloe Beach and said, we're going to touch the sea at Bondi. We're doing it. Josh and I went off and we started doing 40k days, 50k days, 60k days. We were cranking it right up, and we're doing 75, 80k days in the heat through the Nullarbor, through the hottest part of Australia in coming up to their summer. I was running on roads for 4 or 5 hours in a row, and I just felt I was in the same spot. It was just insane. And this is when I was running in the Nullarbor. I looked ahead of me and thought, this is what I was fucking built for. There's no one on this planet currently that I felt at that time could outwork me. That was the mindset I had. No one on planet Earth right now is running across the Nullarbor in 41 degree heat for hours and hours and hours. It's me. There's no one on the planet that can outwork me currently. That's what I felt. And we got through it, and we'd done it, and we had what our van was doing was driving 20k up the road, and we'd run to the van and we'd restock our water, our food, and we'd go off again.
So you'd have small reference points along the way that you were working towards, I suppose. Breaking it down like that.
Down with checkpoints.
Did that help?
Yeah, it did. It broke it down. It was seeing that van. You're running for hours, and you see a tiny little white square in the distance, and you go, that's our van, that's our pickup point.
But you didn't have no physios with you, no nutritionists, nothing. No, you were just living. What was your food like? What food did you have?
This is crazy. We were living off Spam, pastas, noodles, Tim Tams, Sour Patch Kids.
Hardcore, mate.
It was cowboy as fuck.
Tim Tams.
Yeah, it was cowboy as fuck.
You turned Aussie, mate, already. You've turned Aussie already.
We didn't have a nutritionist. We didn't have a physio. We didn't even have like an ice baths. We had nothing, right? And this is what I'm trying to. I wish running influencers understood is that we had nothing, absolutely nothing. We were trying to ask our family for more money just so we could buy food.
Minimalistic. There was literally, you were just self-sustainable with a little bit of food. You had a checkpoint that you had to get through a vehicle. Who was driving the vehicle?
So my friend Alaric, he's a good friend of mine. So he came out to be the videographer. He ended up being the driver, the navigator, the chef, everything, mate. He done everything. And you know what? It was. I had some old trainers, mate. I had my old roofing t-shirts, a bucket hat, and I won't change. That's who I am. I don't come from a privileged background. I've just come from a very normal family. I don't feel the need to have all this. I've never been given loads of expensive stuff. I've just gone, this is who I am. I'm going to run in my old work uniform. I'm going to run in my Sunday league kit.
And where were you sleeping?
In the van, mate. I had the double bed above the seats.
Sleeping bag in the van?
Yeah, mate.
Did you get nice and cozy with Josh?
That's it, mate. Yeah. We had that van stunk a lot, it stunk a lot. And
oh, mate, I can smell it from here, you filthy bricks.
Big time, mate. And luckily we had our own bed each because it's a 6-man van. There's 3 of us, so we had our own bed. But when you didn't get a campsite that had a plug-in system and it was a free camp and there was no aircon, there was nothing, but it got to a point where we got maybe 45 days in, and Josh unfortunately had to pull out. He had to stop. He couldn't go on anymore. And this is where, for me, this is when I found out who I really am. So my family, we said, look, we're going to try and do this run in 60 days. We're going to try and take 17 days off the British record. And I told my friends and family, we're going to be there on 60 days. Mark my words. My mum and sister flew from Bracknell to Bondi Beach for 2 days to see me finish, and they were going to fly me home. Josh got injured. I was gutted. It was a tough day. We'd come such a long way from that pub in Wokingham, mate, to when he crashed out. We come a long way together.
Yeah, hats off to him.
And he's 21. And he's not built for running, but he ran about 45 marathons, right? So he ran a lot. Honestly, he's going to be a fantastic officer. He's one of the hardest lads I've ever known. So he had to stop, and because we lost 4 days, Alaric said to me, "Look, mate, I've done the maths." He goes, "Your mum and sister are flying in to Sydney. For you to be there on the beach with them, you're going to have to run 120k a day for 12 days in a row. You're going to have to run 74 miles a day for 12 days in a row to be there with them." And I thought, fuck, this is insane. Like, the most I've done is 90k. I've now got to add almost a marathon to my days for 12 days in a row. This is hell on earth. Hell on earth.
Insane, mate. That's insane.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, there's a lot of ultra runners out there that would be fine with that. But people need to remember, I was a builder. This is a strange territory for me.
Do you think that it helped that you had limited resources? Do you think that it helped that you were doing it rough, that you were doing it the hard way? Because sometimes, I think you can get a little bit too complacent when you've got lots of assets at your disposal, where you've got lots of opportunities to dip out, shall we say. Do you think that helped you, that you were actually living and breathing it, and you had no choice?
Yeah,
you had no other options.
100%. Like I said, I come from a family that always got by. I didn't have everything, but I never went without. And for me, I wouldn't have changed anything. It gave me that sort of dog mentality, to be like, I haven't got the best of everything. I haven't got the best food. I haven't got this. I haven't got that. I'm going to prove to all these running influencers and all these reality TV stars who get everything for free that I'm going to outwork you regardless of my situation and regardless of what backing I have. And that really pushed me on to do exactly what I done. Because, don't get me wrong, life's unfair, but however, you got to put yourself in these positions to get all this stuff. I totally get that, and you've got to work hard, and the harder you work, the luckier you get. But for me, I came from such a underdog background, an underdog story, that I was all in. I embraced the chaos. I embraced the 4 hours sleep a night. I was running for 16 hours.
So when Josh pulled out and your mucker said to you, right, listen, this is what you're going to have to cover per day for the next 12 days. When those numbers were thrown at you that you had to cover so many kilometers a day, I doubt, knowing you just in a short time, that scared you. Did that just egg you on even more?
Yeah, you bang on. It was, for me, it was survival as well, because I've wanted to be a motivational speaker for so long. So if I ran these 33 marathons in 12 days, if I ran this 120k a day for 12 days, off the back of already running for 6 weeks, I was on a 4,000 calorie deficit a day. I got so skinny. I dropped down to about 64 kg. So I was emaciated. And for me, I thought, this is survival. If I do this 12 days of hard work, I will be on a ladder that I've wanted to climb for a long, long time. This is survival. I want this life for me so badly. I said, I am willing to die now.
Yeah, you almost wish for that. You almost went into those deep, dark corners to find this very moment. Yeah. So this moment for you was like, these 12 days are I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly what I signed up for and more. This is my moment.
And I was running so much that I was collapsing. I was collapsing about 10:30 at night after running for 14 hours. I was getting scraped off the floor on the tarmac and put in the van. I was waking up 4.5 hours later. My feet were swollen and cut. I couldn't even tie up my laces. I was having a bowl of porridge and some water, and I was running for 14, 15 hours again. I was doing it, and my friends then said, mate, I've just seen you on BBC News. The world's watching you now.
How were you still doing it, Jack?
Mate, do you know what? My dad was over me, and
there you go.
My mum and sister spent a lot of money to come out and watch me finish. I couldn't let them down. And I kept going to the point where I was suffering from psychosis. So what was happening was, we've all gone on a bender and had 3 hours sleep and gone to work. We've all done that. I was running for 16 hours a day. I was sleeping for 4.5 hours, sometimes 4 hours. I was sacrificing a shower so I could have more sleep. And I'd wake up and do it again. And because my brain never went into that full rest mode.
Well, you couldn't allow it to, right?
I couldn't, yeah. So I was waking up and I just felt I wasn't sleeping. And there was times where I was running into Sydney. I was getting closer and closer, and I was visualizing people coming up to me, asking me where Moscow was on a road map. I was seeing Spitfires in the air. I was seeing all sorts. And this is when a packet of Tim Tams saved my life, mate, I swear. So I've just ran 90 miles. I had a 45-minute break, and then I pushed on to run another 50, 60 miles. That was also be said in the BBC article. I had 45 minutes of just eating. I was seeing things, hallucinating, and I ran after that 70 miles. I then had 5 hours sleep in the van, and I said to my mum and sister, "Look, I'm not going to finish today. I'm going to be here tomorrow morning on the 61st day. I promise you, I'll be late, but I'll be there. I'm doing it. I'm finishing." I was so skinny. I was so hairy.
Mate, give me goosebumps.
Mate, you could see how gaunt I was. I looked like Conor McGregor before a weigh-in. I looked so emaciated, and I thought, I'm doing it. And the world was watching me because people were messaging me going, "Mate, I've just seen you on the news. I've followed you on Strava. Like, you're just a builder. You're just a normal guy. You're not a professional athlete. You're not what? How?" And I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And my last checkpoint, I got out of the van knowing I had to run 15K, and I've done it. I've done it. So I'm getting emotional already. I got out of the van and
it's all good, mate. It's all good.
Put the Union Jack round me, and I put a photo of my family with me. I pushed on. I had nothing left. I had nothing left. I was hallucinating.
Apart from some Tim Tams.
Tim Tams, mate. They kept me alive. I swear they did. And you know, I pushed on and I came down the hill in Sydney. Very, very hilly. I forgot how hilly Sydney is, or heard it was anyway. And I came down this hill. I saw the ocean, and Josh, who obviously had to pull out, I said, "Look, you're running the last couple of K with me, mate. We've done this together. You know, we started it together. We're going to finish together." And he was still injured, but he couldn't walk. And we ran the last couple of K together. And my family were at the beach. Everyone was there. And I went on the sand at Bondi and just looked up at the sky at my dad and got it done, mate. I touched the ocean at Bondi and done it, and I couldn't believe it. You know, my phone was going off. It was about 7:30 in the evening in the UK. My phone was going off, and I just sat down. I had to keep pinching my arms because I had no sleep. I didn't know what was real. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. I thought I was going to wake up in the van again and go, "You've got to run again." So seeing my family there, they didn't recognise me, mate. They didn't recognise me. I looked completely different. But yeah, that was it. And I flew home 8 hours later.
Wow.
Not even first class, mate, nothing. My feet were swollen, they were cut, they were bleeding. I couldn't even walk. I got on the flight home 8 hours later and flew home the same day I finished.
Take me back to when you first saw your mum on the beach. Do you remember seeing her?
Yeah.
And how did you manage to hold your emotions back, or didn't you?
It was mental, mate. I saw my mum and sister there, and loads of people were like, This is the English guy that's run across Australia. I've heard about him. I've read about him. This is insane. What's going on? And people there watching me cheering, and I ran down and I saw my mum and sister, and they said, "Keep going. You got to touch the ocean. You got to touch the ocean." And all the pain went. Every ounce of pain completely disappeared the second I saw my friends and family. I just ran as fast as I could to that ocean. And I turned around, I touched the ocean, I hugged Josh and was like, "Mate, we done it. And I hugged my mum and sister and I just said, "Get me home. I'm a Bracknell boy, get me home." And, it was mental.
With the Union Jack wrapped around your shoulder.
Yeah, that was it. I'd done it. I'd done it for my family's name. That was the day my family's surname, my dad's name, shook hands with history. That's all I wanted to do. And, it was amazing, and that moment, I don't really care for the record itself. The record was the cherry on the cake, but the fact I ran across Australia, I ran 95 marathons in 61 days with hardly any food and money and sleep and recovery.
Mate.
I've done it. I overcome massive odds to do it. And,
wow.
And yeah, I just sat on that Bondi beach, mate. I had a calzone, I had a muffin, I had a full English, mate. And I ate for weeks, for months even, But I remember finishing and straight away I thought I am so much more capable of what I already think I can do.
Mate, that's an amazing feat. You know, especially with most athletes, and I'm talking, you have to be an athlete plus standard of fitness to do what you've done. So you certainly are in that category. They go into races with zero distractions. You went in there with a whole chaotic situation unfolding, not knowing how each day is going to come, where you're going to get your fuel from, if you've got enough money, if you've got enough food, if you're going to make it. Your life leading up to that moment, that's just prepared you for that, because it sounds like your life has been so chaotic. You've had to figure things out on the move, figure things out in the moment, in the now, and really deal with your headspace and your emotions, as they present themselves. Do you think that helped you to tackle this chaotic run and complete it?
Yeah, for sure. It was. I grew up with the mindset of just get on with it. Stop moaning. There's countries in who are at war. There's famine. There's this. There's that. What have you got to moan about? Get on with it.
Mate, can you imagine if you have all the support and you have the backing and the sponsors for your next project? You'd absolutely smash it, mate. But then again, there's that double-edged sword of do you perform better, like you said, under pressure when everything is against you, when the odds are against you? Or are you going to perform better if everything is put on a plate for you? What is next? What is next for you, Jack?
So the plan is now I've got a British record. I want a world record. I want to continue to raise money for the SSAFA. I want to continue to help them, and the plan is to head out to Iceland and to run 100k a day for 8 days in a row and get the fastest ever solo run from north to south of Iceland. I want to beat the record by 2 days. And that's the plan. I even want to try and take more time off it. I'm going to go full in as really? 60 mile runs a day for 8 days in a row. That's the plan.
And when do you plan on doing that?
Hopefully 25th of August. I've been training like a dog. I've been cutting a bit of weight, but it's hard when you're not a celebrity or an athlete. You've got to basically be your own project manager. You've got to be your own personal trainer. You've got to find time to work. I've still got a full-time job. I've still got my girlfriend to see. I've still got friends to see. I've still got, other things to cram into the week. And what I'm trying to do now is to build a team around me that can do that for me, and I can just concentrate on running, just concentrate on beating on my craft every day and training and becoming even more strong than I already am. And like I said, every run I do, I'll always raise money for the SSAFA. I'll always inspire people who are suffering and trying to overcome adversity. I'll always do it. I'll never change from that. And that's what's next on the plan. Yeah.
And Jack, just you're talking about other people there unselfishly, which is great because you want to inspire and you want to let people know, very much like myself, what they're capable of, and how powerful we are if we use ourselves to our advantage. But I sort of fear for you, mate, because I think to myself, when this stops, when you can't do this anymore, what happens to Jack? Because it seems like this is your only option in life to keep doing and putting yourself through these, arduous and painful and sort of, relentless situations in order to deal with, your mental health. And I fear that when it all stops, what happens?
It's a very, what, I've never been asked that question. And what I can think of now is I want my career as an ultra runner or a motivational speaker to almost be like a film. So then I work so hard at speaking, at running, at meeting people and networking and becoming who I've always dreamed of being. I want that I want to work so hard that I don't have to introduce myself anymore for the right ways. I want people to come up to me and go, you stopped my son taking his own life. You stopped my daughter doing this and that. And then from then, if I can speak to thousands of people and I can train people to carry on what I've tried to start, that's enough for me. That's enough for me. If I can find someone else to basically become what I've done, and my humble beginnings of coming from an ex-council house and a nurse and a bricklayer, that's my background. If I can find that in someone else, then I will. That's what I want to go.
Well, mate, make sure you just keep pushing yourself. And listen, this project Iceland, the world record run, it's exciting, mate. I'm going to help you out with some sponsorship for that, mate. So you've heard it here first.
Thank you, mate.
So listen, I'm on board, mate, with you. I'm on board. I won't make your life too comfortable though, because I think if you get too comfortable, you won't do it. No, mate. Really proud to for all the Brits out there to know that we still have these determined, grit, determination, and that sort of dogged sort of underdog sort of mentality to just always push on, never give up, no matter the situation, whether you're going to succeed or fail. It's just putting one foot in front of the other and then doing it for other people, mate, is very, very honourable, and I salute you for that, buddy.
Thank you, mate.
Listen, Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on my podcast, Head Game. I know thousands, and you say this yourself, thousands of people are going to get a lot out of this. Is there a final message you want to leave the listeners?
It will go back to the saying I said a while back, if you're not scared of dying, then you shouldn't be scared of failure. Don't put passion into things. Do things that you get passion out of. Focus on that.
Yeah.
Rather than, you can put passion into so much things. It won't change your life. You need to do things and try and find what gives you passion. Once you do that, and you become good at it, and you feel like you can make money from it and create a life from it, drop everything, throw all your eggs in one basket, never give up. Simple as that.
Love that, Jack. Listen, buddy, good luck with everything you do in the future. I'll be a part of it, your next project for sure. Listen, mate, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks very much.
Cheers, thanks, mate.
You can follow Jack's next adventure on his Instagram page. I'll put the link in the show notes. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Head Game. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. I'm Matt Middleton. See you again next time.